I always knew that I was different. I was overwhelmed with discomfort. I did come to a point where enough was enough. My mum passed away when I was 12, so it was already hard enough. This is who I am. Drag is what you do, and trans is who you are. It was just about being my true self rather than trying to be someone else. There were too many trans children who know this is for them. Healthcare is everyone's right. Why are trans children having to put up the oppression? Do I see the truth of who I'm meant to be?
Tell us who you are and why you're here.
So my name is Neave. I am of age 23 and I am from Coventry. I myself am a trans woman who goes by the pronouns she, her, and I came here all willing with all pride and all passion to come out here and express and tell my own story.
Okay, thank you so much. So you said you'd love to tell your story. Tell us your story. Tell people, when did you first know that you were trans? When was it and what was it like for you?
I would say more so, I was very young and I always knew that I was different. But being someone who was born in the early 2000s and very little knowledge was still promoted about being LGBTQ. But coming into the years of secondary school was when I started to have feelings towards more for guys than I did with girls. And so there it just started from exploring what my sexuality was. So I spent a little over a year knowing, but still in the closet, because I wasn't so sure what the outcome would be if I did come out and such. And even with my dad, we're looking at an age now where my mum passed away when I was 12. So it was already hard enough for my dad to be accommodating to me and my two older siblings, while all of us as a family household were processing that loss. And when I gave a little sign, a little implement of me just questioning if I was to be gay, then what would you say? And his response wasn't so 100% thumbs up. It was more so trying to understand and process the realities of potentially having a queer child. So then, because it wasn't so much 100% at first, I still kept it in a little bit longer. But then I did come to a point where enough was enough of hiding. And I do need to tell my dad that this is who I am. And he said that he loves me no matter what. He will accept me. And it was just quite evident over time since then that he was still learning while accepting. So it wasn't that he wasn't against anything. It was just a matter of him taking time to be very open.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I was 16 and I started getting into drag. So being a drag queen and stuff, and being in feminine clothing, cheap stuff. If you went to a barcode shop for a 30 quid, not so high quality wig or cheap makeup and clothing. And when I first put it on all together, there was a sense of euphoria. The presentation of being super feminine, expanding more than just personality, felt so right. And even though at this point, when knowing myself and doing drag, I've always had friends who were trans themselves, I didn't think in any way, in some sense, that it would just click it to my mind immediately that being trans is who I was the whole time. So it took me a while until I was 18 and I started having feelings about my gender. And it was a matter of exploring my gender, like socially, rather than taking the big steps of going anywhere with medical gender affirming care. Of course, I would have to start socially so that I can be sure whether if this is me or not. So, of course, drag did help me quite a bit. And although I say that from my own experience, I'm not saying that every trans person would only have understood and explored their gender through drag, because everyone's different with how they understand and explore themselves until they come to their terms with their identity. I was more so trying to understand whether if I was of a non-binary identity at this point, or if I myself was a woman. And a few months went on, and after like many times where I would go in my bedroom, I'd look at myself in the mirror and just try and see, who do I see in that mirror? Do I see what's here? Or do I see the truth of the reflection of who I'm meant to be? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then I finally came to terms that I was trans. We're still a bit nervous, of course, to come out as trans to my friends and family, because although I already came out before with my sexuality being a cis guy at the time, coming out as trans is like a different atmosphere. It's like more challenging to come out with your true identity, with your gender, than it is with your sexuality, in a sense, depending on like background and your circle of friends and family. But everyone took it well, and I've never had like a negative thing to say towards me about it. It was just a matter of like revising over my preferred name, my preferred pronouns, and it did take time. Nothing that I would have ever scrutinized them for if they did get it all wrong, because not everyone's going to get it right the first time, are they?
So for people listening, like, what's the difference? Because you talked about being a cis gay boy or man.
Yeah.
And we've talked about drag. We talked about being a transgender girl, a woman. Like, what's the difference? Like, people might say, well, why don't you just stay as being a gay cis man? Like, why did you have to change? Do you know what I mean? Or if you want to dress up, do drag. Like, why did you have to change? So Can you explain that? I mean, I understand it, but I just wondered if you could explain the difference for people who might not understand it.
I think some people can get confused between like drag and trans. And the one saying that I've learned, I think maybe it's an old saying because I don't really hear people like say it so much now. But to take back as an example to understand the difference, drag is what you do and trans is who you are. So drag is just more like wearing a costume, like to present yourself on stage and give out a performance. Even if, take for example, with like pantos in theatre, of course you see that one big dressed like lady, or typically like a man in like very female dressed, comedic. That's all just like an aesthetic. It's like an art form. Whereas, of course, being trans is of an identity that lives with you for a lifetime. And to do anything as such as being trans and also doing drag, which is what I still currently do, being a trans woman who is also a drag queen, it shouldn't really be like in any way contradictive. I think there's just a heavy perception of trans people doing drag just contradicting the whole purpose of being trans. But really, as I say, drag is an aesthetic and being trans is an identity. And that's all that it boils down to.
Yeah, beautifully put. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for explaining that. So I'm sorry to hear that you lost your mum, but your dad sounds like he's been, although he was going through his own loss as well, it sounds like he's been a really lovely support for you and tried to learn and keep up with you.
Well, I do need to voice it out, to be fair. He has been very strong. He's always been putting on the bravery of assuring that everything was going to be okay. Even if he was struggling himself, he always assured that everything was going to be okay. And a funny story, actually, from when my mom was carrying me in the womb, she had CT scans to try and reveal my gender. And they turned around to her and said that I was going to be born a girl.
Really?
Yeah, no joke. They turned around and said that I was going to be born a girl. So since then, my mum and dad was preparing everything in typical pink girly colours and everything else. And they didn't actually know that I was actually born a boy until, of course, I was born. And there was nothing they could do to change all the aesthetics of what they prepared for me. So, to keep me warm after I've been birthed, I was put in the pink warm clothes.
Oh, well, actually, I think that's beautiful.
Yes.
So have you got pictures of you born in pink?
There is a picture somewhere. I'm going to have to ask my dad for it, to be fair. But I remember seeing it a long time ago of me in pink. And we just thought it was a really funny story, to be fair. There's even other pictures from when I was younger where I was wearing my mom's heels. When I was in nursery, they caught a picture of me in a princess dress as well. And I'm just holding a wooden train track toy with the dress as well.
In the background. That's lovely.
Just looking down yes, I'm wearing this.
Oh, that's really sweet. All I keep thinking is these people who say, oh God, they just rush into it. They just wake up yesterday and then say, oh, I'm trans. And I'm like, it seems to me that you spent a long time working out who you are and what your identity is.
Of course.
So what do you say to people who, if someone was to say to you, you just rushing into it? Because I don't think you rushed into it, did you?
I don't think so. I mean, there are I think if there's anything that I have to point out that I don't believe should be infringed on anyone is competition of who is more trans than who and who has more capabilities of going through the process depending on how long you've been waiting for. I don't believe that, to be fair. Of course, in order to receive the treatment you want, it can't go without counselling, therapy, and of course having further medical intervention to assure this is truly what you want. And I think that that's all it comes down to. When I recently came out, my dad supported me with going privately for counselling, which I've had 6 sessions for. And initially, bless my dad, he thought that was going to be somewhere where I could get a gender dysphoria diagnosis. But with counselling, of course, it's just more about offloading what's on your mind, what's taking it off your chest. We took the appropriate steps needed to ensure this was truly what I wanted, if this was definitely for me. And then that was all before I even reached out to GenderGP as well. So, of course, there's time, but there's also resources rather than just going off to your own accord. Like if you were going to go through the process of like self-medicating, for example, which we of course know that is alongside going private for healthcare is like a really big thing in our community because of how limited gender-affirming care is in the UK, and it's going to get a lot harder and a lot longer to get anywhere towards like your own personal success.
When you were going through puberty, what was that like for you? Because that was before you kind of realised who you really were. So what was that like for you?
Yes, well, actually, with puberty, like before puberty, I didn't really have so much issues like worrying about my identity, etc. But then as soon as like I was hitting puberty, I was getting like some feelings of discomfort, like I didn't like this, I didn't like that. The excessive body hair growth and the voice change and the visual appearance of like an Adam's apple. I didn't like any of that, even with like facial hair either. I just knew like of my own consciousness of like my feelings that it just wasn't for me. And I wish that there was a way to like reverse it. And that's just without knowing about my gender identity. So like looking at these examples of like what I loved doing, still love doing, the physical changes to my body as well, are all just signs that I'm meant to be who I am now.
So if you could have pressed pause back then to give you some time to work things out, would that have been helpful, do you think?
I believe so, yeah. I think if I had known that there was such thing as like the LGBTQ plus community at like any given age, to be fair, because I do have family who are like lesbian or gay, and I've known of that from like when I was a teenager and had no issue. But being trans or of such wasn't really spoken about in itself, because maybe in theory it wasn't expected for anyone in the family to have like gender dysphoria or having complications with their identity. But I think if the education and the support was given a lot sooner, then yes, I think it would have been a lot more helpful.
So when did you first know the word, or when did you first understand that you could be born a boy but actually be a girl? When were you first aware of that kind of thing?
This was when I was in the closet as like a cis man, but in the closet about being gay. And while I was in the closet, keeping it all a secret, of course, I did my own research of like understanding like being gay, bisexual, and stuff. And then that's when trans and gender non-conforming people came into the topic too. So it wasn't that, because I was pretty open-minded anyway, not that I had any disagreements at all. But once I started to learn that trans people do exist, and anyone of any spectrum of non-binary identities do exist as well, I became more intrigued. And the first ever time that I ever came across a trans person was, I want to say, a couple of weeks after I finally came out. And then I started joining a LGBTQ plus youth group in my home city in Coventry.
So how old were you roughly here?
This was when I was 14 that I finally came out. Yeah. And then when I joined this youth group, that's when I started to meet trans people. And I was like, yes.
Yeah. And they're saying at the moment that we shouldn't teach children about it in case it encourages them or in case it leads them down a path. But I'm kind of thinking that if you had had more knowledge, and if your family had had more knowledge, your life had had more knowledge, then you would have understood it sooner. So what do you think? Do you think we should teach about gender identity to children in schools and homes, teach parents about it? Or do you think we should just keep it quiet?
To keep it quiet, no, it's a straight answer. But for education is about awareness, and education is about building a sense of knowledge of understanding the real world. And I think secondary schools should be teaching trans people. But I think why people say we shouldn't be teaching children about the trans community is they're worried about indoctrination, and that being meaning, of course, trying to persuade someone to think that once you're learning of us, this is who you got to be. But that's not true. None of us have even said that at all. So where have they got that theory from? I have no clue. But the point is, it's not to indoctrinate. It's about being aware of everyone's differences and different genders. And I think it should be asked, when someone asks you, how should I know if I am trans or not? Then you are to be that person to ask that person, are they happy being a boy or a girl? As they are assigned by birth, by whichever. And if they say yes, then that's all that matters. As long as you're happy in your body, that's all that matters. And since I came out, I was overwhelmed with discomfort of the body that I had before starting on HRT. And this is where GenderGP comes into the equation of the story. Because originally, when I wanted to transition, my first place was going to be the London Transgender Clinic. But of course, looking at the prices, they were quite expensive. But then someone who I was friends with at the time had announced that they had been approved for a HRT through GenderGP. And I was like, oh my goodness. GenderGP organises like prescriptions. I thought they were just more for like counselling or anything like that. I didn't know medical care was also offered. So I was like, I think I need to explore GenderGP myself and see whether if it fits to my like circumstances, like the support I'm looking for, and of course managing around expenses. And it did. It was very much parallel to what I was looking for. And of course I went towards having a pathway appointment, similar to like when you have your first and second initial assessments if you were to have passed through the waiting list on the NHS.
Yeah.
And gave him my blood results, and I myself was approved, which was really exciting. A bit nervous as well, because it is a big step. Like, you can be nervous and excited at the same time. And I am now over 3 years on HRT, and the changes I have had over the time has been incredible, and it has lifted up my confidence, lifted up my self-belief as my true self over time. And I couldn't be any more grateful, and I will have to say it can't go unspoken. That would not have happened. GenderGP would not have happened if it wasn't for you, of course, and I do need to thank you for that. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. That's so lovely to hear that story, honestly. And what was it like starting hormones for you, or how you say hormone replacement therapy? What was that like for you? Tell me a little bit about that.
The emotional side of things from when I started taking my very first dose, specific enough, being on the 27th of July, 2022, was when I started taking the the first pump of estradiol.
So it's like a gel, is it?
Yes,
Yeah,
that you
so
just
people know.
apply onto the skin. And it's also recommended as the most safest form of taking HRT. And so are patches too,
Okay.
because it goes straight into the stream, your bloodstream, rather than going through like the critical functioning organs like your liver and your intestines, all the important like digestive organs to process whatever is being consumed.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
So that was the 27th of July, 22.
Yes.
And what was it like?
It was like freedom. It was actually a really wholesome feeling to finally start taking a treatment that would help me feel as though I am finally going in the right direction in my life and my whole being. And over time, it was, of course, it has to be a waiting game to see any changes because it doesn't happen overnight. I did notice little changes, but I think I needed to have some further examinations with my blood tests to understand why I didn't feel as though I was having so much change over the past couple of months. And it did turn out it was because I had really high testosterone level than I did with estrogen. And I believe if it's said correctly scientifically, testosterone is like a stronger opponent than estrogen when it comes to dominating the whole like changes to the body. So for me, it wasn't just going to be about changing what form of consumption I take for HRT, but it was also going to have to take testosterone blockers too to help give the estrogen more space. And then, of course, progesterone became enough a factor to go along with my changes to help enhance more feminine changes. And so since being on the testosterone blocker with the additional increase of the estrogen and the addition of the progesterone, that's when I started seeing the changes. And I do want to point out as well that like there were different forms of medication handed out depending what is legal, what can be legally offered from the regulators of medical health. They're all different because everyone's body is different. So just because it's working for that person, like with the gel, doesn't mean that it'll 100% work for you. But it's not to say that you shouldn't start with that. Just let it be a warm-up.
Yeah.
And then once you know for sure whether it's working for you or not, then that's where you take the steps whether to stick with that prescription or receive a suggestion of something else.
Cool. Thank you for explaining that. That's going to really help people. And how do you take your testosterone blocker? What do you use to block your testosterone?
So I take a tablet form. Cyprotone.
Okay, cyproterone. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not even going to bother trying to attempt that.
The whole GenderGP team can't say it, so you're not alone.
Thank goodness I'm not on my own.
It is a tongue twister.
Yes, but that's what I take. And I was prescribed on the 25 milligram. And the whole tablet itself is 50. So I would have to get like a special tool that has like a blade. And then you position the tablet where there's a line in the middle, and that's the soft spot.
Okay.
And then I close over the lid, press down firmly until you hear the crack. And then that should be one tablet split into two 25 milligram.
Cool. That sounds easy.
Yes, very.
And what did the progesterone do for you?
It helped a lot with my hip and breast growth,
Okay,
for
cool.
sure.
Cool.
I mean, with the estrogen itself, the side effects of like the tenderness and like the itchiness was there, but it was like very mild. Of course, because of the effects with like the testosterone not given enough room. But once I started having the blockers and then the increase of female hormones, then that's when the side effects really started to kick in with like the mood swing side of things. And I was like, this is a journey. So, but at least I know it's working. If I'm having all these side effects, it means it's working.
So it was like a second puberty for you, was it?
It was, yes. It kind of felt like a puberty that I wish I had from the start.
Really?
Yeah, rather than like the male puberty that I went through. But of course, that was just a wish.
Yeah.
It's just a wish that if I had not gone through the male puberty, then the female puberty would have felt like very much for me, very affirming.
Yeah. Like puberty blockers, they're not, in the UK, people under the age of 18 aren't allowed to have them at the moment. What do you think about that?
Many people would argue about like what puberty blockers does to like the body if it does not go through puberty, like with the bone structure and like the muscles and how the brain functions with emotions and whatnot. But at the same time, that's what counseling is there for when it comes to like emotional side of things when it comes to puberty blockers. But I say that it's risky because there are children out there who do know at a very young age that they are trans. And there was one protest that I went to. The thing that broke my heart the most in the protest was the person with the mic exposed all sorts of things about what's been misconstrued about trans people, about us being a threat in some way of being like a danger to others and in like society. And then I saw the mom turn to the child and said and asked, "No, you're not a threat, are you?" And I was like, why are trans children having to put up like the oppression from like adults who are just outright being bigoted and just not giving everyone the airspace to just be free? You know, I think that's what's upsetting. But back to the puberty blockers. Yes, there were too many like trans children who know this is for them. And there have been results before that have proven that their well-being has improved when they receive puberty blockers, because whether they know their gender or not, at least they're given extra time to be sure whether they're happy going through the puberty aligning to their assigned sex at birth, or if they want to go through the puberty opposite to that. No one should be told what you can and can't receive. For no matter what age you are, healthcare is everyone's right, is what I'd argue.
So would I.
Yes.
And say you had a beautiful, sparkly magic wand that was just to make something beautiful happen for the trans community. What would you wish for?
Don't be afraid to be loud, be proud, advocate for visibility, awareness, and education. And always feel brave. Always know that you are right. You are right as a person. You are right for what you believe in, as you believe to support everyone else. And just wish for one day, whenever that day comes in our lifetime, that trans people do not become the center of being marginalized and just left alone.
That is a beautiful wish. And I have to say, you just coming here today and sharing your story that lots of people can listen to is definitely going to help that happen. So thank you so much for coming and sharing that. It's been really, really emotional listening to what you've been saying. And I'm so pleased that you found your identity at last. So
thank you.
And you look beautiful.
Thank you so much. And you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Don't forget to subscribe. And also don't forget the next video on screen is just for you.